Let me start with an introduction. This is CJ and Melinda. I think a lot of people that are here, they already know you. There's like a big CJ fan club.
He's the mayor of Body Science.
I believe you are the mayor of Body Science. And I think a bunch of folks have bought Converse just because of you.
I think that's
pretty
true,
much.
too.
Yeah, exactly. CJ's the Converse king, and we wait just to see what Converse you're bringing in each visit. Mm-hmm. We are doing talk today on a couple of things. So we're going to start off with clinical presentation when it comes to motor neuron disease. And the reason is because, CJ, your presentation and your progression is very different. And so let's talk about what we consider to be strategies here for that presentation. And then also we'll try and do videos routinely now on what are people using that's helping out. When you came in with this scooter, we realized, wow, there's a handful of things that make it really easy to use and have given you a lot more flexibility and freedom. Mm-hmm. And so let's do the first part. Let's talk about motor neuron and different presentations, and then we will switch gears and talk about tools to help. Presentation side. Here's what we know. First of all, as a center, we routinely find that people have infections, and we routinely use treatment approaches to address those infections. So now we're in the world of things like Lyme, herpetics, Coxsackie, mycoplasma. CJ, you're different for us by comparison. From the beginning, that was not our premise in your case, and continues not to be. Mm-hmm. And so during the time that we've worked together, about a year and a half, we have never gone down that road. And the reason is that's just not where we think your motor neuron damage is coming from. So we'll get calls routinely from people that are looking for information about infections or treatments for infections. I think for a lot of people with motor neuron disease, that applies. And for plenty of people with motor neuron disease, that does not. Yeah. And so I like the fact that we can look at your presentation and kind of get a clear idea of the difference. And that way, for people that are watching, whether those folks are clinical or whether those are other people that have motor neuron disease, they can clearly see a difference and recognize what I believe we've already found as a center, which is infections have a certain look. So infections that are triggering motor neuron damage look different than certain chemicals that are triggering motor neuron damage. All right, so with that in mind, here's what we know. We know that we are July of 2023 right now, and we know that you were diagnosed in 2020. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unique in your case by comparison to others. You had just said before we had even gotten on the video, one of the things that you don't really have substantial muscle atrophy.
Yeah.
Right. And so, in fact, I'm going to come on around. I know videoing and walking around for me is always hard, but I'm going to give it a try. Okay. But here's the thing. It's really important because your primary presentation is rigidity.
Yes.
And we were talking in the back room, as soon as for you things become aggravating or too hot or too cold, I mean, you move into that spastic or rigid move.
Very stiff, exactly, yeah.
Right. So for a lot of people, what they see is scissoring in their legs when they first wake up in the morning.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have that? Yep.
Absolutely.
Or again, rigidity where it's hard to bend. What commonly happens with a supporter is they're trying to help you get into a car, and there'll be like rigid legs where you can't get knees to bend. Yeah. Okay, so what we're describing right now, I've seen it too many times now. So again, keep in mind for everybody that's watching this video, okay, the reason that we're doing this video and putting it out there, motor neuron disease is very different from one person to the next. There isn't a single protocol. Yep. And instead, the question is, what does your motor neuron disease look like? So what we know already is here we are 3 years in with very little, if any, muscle atrophy.
And his voice just started changing about 6 months ago.
Yeah. Now, the voice is an interesting thing. I will come around. I know I said I was going to, and then I realized, okay, so I had mentioned to you, a lot of people that have motor neuron disease, right, upper motor neurons are affected and their voice is affected. Okay, but there's a huge difference in voice changes. And so for some people, it is more dysarthric. They have dysarthria. So it's a slurred sound and it sounds like they're drunk. Mm-hmm. Okay, for some people, by comparison, they have extreme atrophy. When you look at the tongue, you can see it. So the tongue is much smaller and on the edges or the lateral borders, you can actually see atrophy.
Right.
All right. For some people, a majority of atrophy is right in the middle, and so they can't lift their tongue up to the roof of their mouth, and they're missing certain consonants. Okay, so for everybody that's listening to this video, remember you're trying to group yourself with motor neuron disease because different causes of motor neuron disease have different symptom presentations.
Right.
When you and I met, CJ, I tried to kind of place it. It took me, I think, until the second visit where I realized I don't think I'm looking at atrophy. I think I'm looking at what's referred to as bradykinesia, which is slow stiffness. And it's almost as if the same slow stiffness that you have throughout your body when you're moving, when you're trying to get on your chair, is the same slow stiffness that I can hear in your voice.
Every time he gets anxious or excited or frustrated, you can tell him his voice is, because like his tongue moves fine, but everything locks up and he's like, and I'm like, I can't understand anything you're saying. Calm down.
Okay, so I hear you. So again, talking about from an education point of view, whether it's a clinician that's watching this, whether it's somebody else that has motor neuron or that's watching this, there's no mistaking that what you have is motor neuron disease.
Right.
Okay, it doesn't change the fact that your presentation is different. And the question is, can people start getting clear on what is making up a presentation, because different presentations, different therapies. And again, this from our vantage point is not the presentation of infections. It's a presentation of chemicals.
Right.
It's motor neuron damage, but the presentation is more about spasticity and rigidity, not just in limbs, but also in voice. We expect that's more midbrain. So we recognize the areas that are typically involved with motor neuron disease, but we believe as a center, we are looking at more midbrain structures. We expect that we are looking at something that is dopamine related because of the rigidity or the bradykinesia. And we're thinking here at the center, dopamine neurons, dopamine cells that are serotonin producing. And so there are dopamine cells that can make serotonin. We know from your history, CJ, serotonin is really, really important. And when serotonin levels have been influenced, we've been able to see changes in progression. Right? Episodes of lower serotonin triggering progression, episodes of robust serotonin allowing for improvements and stability. And so, again, just kind of talking about what is this presentation. Rigidity or bradykinesia, that slowness, is commonly, not always, but commonly a midbrain kind of symptom. The question is, what is your voice? Is this the same change in voice? Do all people with motor neuron disease that have voices that are affected, is it always the same? And the answer is nope. No. Right, so sometimes it really is that slurred dysarthria. Sometimes it really is the lateral borders or the edges of the tongue on either side that atrophy. Sometimes it really is a middle of the tongue, and then those folks know it because of the consonants. And in your case, CJ, that slowness in your voice. And Melinda, to your point, that CJ, anytime that emotions, especially involving serotonin, change, you can see the change in that voice as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm going to come on around, and the reason is, now let's take a look. So when we make the comment, and CJ, when you made the comment before we jumped on that there has been no atrophy, again, what we're looking at, diagnosed with ALS in 2020, we are now looking at somebody in 2023, middle of 2023, and so extreme rigidity and slowness in the form of bradykinesia, both in voice and throughout muscles around the body, but otherwise muscle tone is preserved. Yeah. And so again, for anybody that's watching and kind of getting a sense, we know that we're controlling this through serotonergic pathways and dopamine as our primary. What we have at this point, before you came this time, your point to me was, get my voice under control. Okay, no matter what we know we have had for a period of time, that is stability with disease and stability with progression.
Yes.
So we do have to figure out voice. It doesn't change the fact that we've gone down an avenue of looking at dopamine cells producing serotonin. That's been our strategy. Our strategy has not been an infection approach, not once, not ever in your case. Our goal is do not rock the boat. When we first met, I remember telling you that, like, let's be very, very gentle. Let's be very, very careful. What we know we have is disease control, control for the most part over progression, but we still have not seen improvement in voice, and that's where we're at.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to come back around, and then I'll come on over so we can look at the chair. My question, I'm not sure if there's anything else. Usually I don't have a video where I'm talking so much. Usually it's the other way around. But because CJ, Mayor of Body Science, Your Honor, because, again, your presentation is a well-known presentation, but different than how oftentimes other people are seeing it. Again, I think we use this as a great example on how clinically people evaluate and people that are treating, like if you have this condition, how you know that you fall into kind of a different area. Tell me, is there anything that you guys are thinking?
Anything you want to say?
Not really.
Not really? Yeah. I just know that if he stays calm and has a really good day, that his voice is so much better.
The more serotonin, the less the rigidity. The more serotonin, the easier it is to move, the easier it is to speak.
And easier just to walk, everything. Get in and out of the car, walking, getting into bed, getting out of the bed. Yeah. And
of
this
course,
week's been a lot better than last week too, as far as that's concerned in the mornings.
Okay, so what we know is this is your second week here. We know when you first came in, you were a lot more rigid. And again, what we're doing is serotonergically focused and just motor neuron health focus. And so what we can see, interestingly, is a general improvement in mood. We've seen it before.
Yep.
We actually know here that we have the right combination on board with you, CJ, when that kind of baseline degree of anxiety and sadness resolves. And we triggered it in order to know that this is serotonergic, right? So we have a pretty good handle now on what's going on, and we have really good stability as a result. We know what's going on. The question now is, how do we want to go after voice? And there are a number of studies that are being looked at this time for people that have bulbar symptoms and specifically speech related changes and the use of serotonin to improve that, right? So we know that path, and again, there's a lot of research supporting the same. Right?
I'm excited about the things you have on board for us to go home with.
In my foot.
Yeah, it started in his foot.
My foot.
Left foot. It's just weird where it travels and things it decides to attack. And even with his writing, his dexterity is still there, but it's very slow and he has to slow down and write, but he can still write really well. So then the finger work on the computer and things like that, that's very slow. So there's not a...
I can do it.
You can still do it, right, but it's just slow. I mean, there's not any... There's so many people that we see, that lose the atrophy in their hands and they do the curl or the arms or whatever. He hasn't done any of that. And I think it's just like what you said, just slow. His motions are slow, his voice is slow, his walking is slow.
Right. Rigid, stiff, and slow. Everything is bradykinetic. Everything is stiff and slow.
I have no balance.
No balance. That's because you don't have any flow in your body. Everything's stiff. For sure.
One person here was your point, Melinda. So Melinda just made this comment. This is the most brilliant comment. Let's hear it.
I just said it's like trying to treat every kind of cancer with one particular treatment. Every kind of cancer has different treatments. So you have to find what kind of cancer that is and treat it with that particular type of cancer drug.
All right, so the takeaway, people ask us all the time, what are the protocols that we're using? And what I would tell you is it's not that we're trying to withhold protocols. We've had some very impressive success in this area. If we had an option, we would ensure that everybody could do the same thing to get the same kind of success. The challenge is that really everybody's treatment in this place is different. All right, so then we switch gears. And the reason, again, I know I'd mentioned this at the beginning, but we see people all the time that have figured out really good ideas and you're using them, but nobody else knows about them. And so to be able to start talking about things that help, I think is going to be huge. So,
well, and especially for a man, their ego and their pride, they don't want to have to use anything else. They want to try to stay, on the walker, but it would take us 30 minutes to get from a parking spot into a building if he was on his walker. I mean, that's how slow it is. But this,
And for me, I don't like walkers because I think that they are a fall risk. I think plenty of people fall with walkers, and our approach over here is make sure you don't you don't fall. Right?
don't want to fall.
Falls equal progression, and so I like the fact that you're not using a walker. All right, so now I didn't mean to cut you off, Melinda.
That's fine.
What we know is power chairs have a place, okay, but they can be very heavy and difficult to move around. And so this doesn't replace a power chair, but the question is, are there times where you need something else? So again, I'm going to come on around, and that way we can see it. What we like about this, Siege, you were telling me already, you can get to any table or desk. You can get into a restaurant. You can fold down the front. So let's first see. Oh, you had mentioned to me that turning radius is really good. I'm going to come all the way out here. Hang on. So let me do a couple things. I'm going to come all the way over here, and then guys, we'll put a name up as well. We'll talk about price and everything else. All right.
You want to go? Let's do underneath the table first. That way, otherwise you'll come back over here and get back underneath again. So, any regular table, it's got two sections that fold down. The first one folds down, and it'll go down pretty far. We added this, so it's a little bit taller than anything else would be on there normally, just as a cup holder. But if you don't have the cup holder on there, okay.
Yeah, so I agree. Now you can just go right directly under a table and be comfortable. CJ, can you comfortably eat like that?
Oh yeah. And so you can lock the handlebars so it doesn't slide out from underneath you. And when the handlebars are locked, he doesn't come back out.
I've seen a number of scooters like this, and the chair rotates around, but in this case you don't even need to rotate the chair because you just bring the handles down.
Yeah. Now the other one we have at home is a 4-wheel scooter, but it's extremely heavy. It's over 150 pounds, and that seat does turn, but to get it in and out of the car is just ridiculous. You just can't do it. And without a vehicle that you run up in, like a ramp or something like that, this folds down, handlebars go down, pick it up, put it in the car, and it weighs 55 pounds.
Now we were talking about the fact that as a 3-wheeler, if you go over something that's really rough terrain, you're going to run into a problem.
Get somebody behind you, just to make sure that you're not going over something you can't control yourself on. So you just have to make sure that someone's around you when you're going over rough terrain. But regular sidewalks and pathways and things like that are paved, you're in good shape. Put your legs back. You're under pressure, aren't you? Lock doesn't seem very tight.
All right, so from a video point of view, again, we can just see, it's super easy to bring that handle up and down.
Oh yeah. And then it's got reverse on it. It's got a little.
Yeah, but that's important.
Yeah.
All right.
Put your feet up.
You tell me where you're going to, and well, again, I'm gonna come on over here. This whole thing is a tight space with a giant carpet, imagine.
You're fine.
Turn on that knife.
Yeah, we'll turn on a dime.
Just don't tip yourself over. Done that before. Turned too sharp and over he went. But it's easier than a 4-wheel because it does have the single wheel in the front, and you can turn a little more sharp than you could on a 4-wheel device. Because 4-wheelers are hard to get into bathrooms. They're hard to get into small spaces, hallways, turning. This is a lot more maneuverable. It comes with 2 batteries. The charger at the bottom down there. There's a little battery pack down there. Comes with that battery, and there's a battery on the other side as a
Here's the name of it.
spare battery.
Okay, so hang on. I'm gonna come on over to the front.
Randy.
Oh yeah, I just saw it in the back. Super handy. Okay, how'd you guys find it? Where'd you buy it?
On Amazon. I was looking for just a lightweight scooter for him to get in, to get around in. And we found this, ordered it, brought it home, and man, it's been fantastic.
So it's actually called Super Handy when you found it on Amazon. Do you recall the price more or less?
$750, $800. Yeah. Under 800. I think it was like $749, $779, something like that.
Easy to put together, difficult to put together?
It came together. Well, the only part there's the centerpiece right there where the tongue goes in, and then you got to put the seat on. It's very simple. Two little cotter pins, and you're in.
All right, so pretty much anybody can put it together.
Oh yeah.
It was delivered directly to the house because it's delivered from Amazon, under $800. And what we know is it gives you a way to go out without having to bring such a big chair. How easy is it to get into a car?
It's very simple to get in the car. I just push the handlebars down, fold the seat down, pick it up, underneath the seat and then around the handlebar and set it in the car.
Okay. Tell me again, what do you think this weighs?
55 pounds.
55 pounds. Okay. And if anybody's using a wheelchair and has a wheelchair ramp on their car, they could just
roll right in.
They could roll it in.
Absolutely.
Right in.
But, we don't have that type of vehicle, so it's
Yeah.
easy for us to put in the back of our SUV and go. Actually, and it even fit in the back of our friend's car. I had a little
Yeah.
Jeep.
What's
that? Like an SUV back, the trunk that lifts
Oh, yeah.
up. It just
Yeah.
sits right in there, so it's pretty easy.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate doing the video today, both parts of it.
You can run it all.
Oh, and you can write it off on your taxes too.
Is this
That's medical
true?
equipment.
Wait, hang on. We're getting
Yeah.
tax.
Medical equipment. Write off on your taxes.
But that's good to know. I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have realized. That's a super good
Yep.
tip right there. Okay, that's true. Medical
It's
expenses.
mobility. It's a mobility scooter. So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, okay, I think we covered a lot. So imagine what we did was we covered, first of all the clinical stuff. CJ, I think that was huge. Like, I really appreciate you guys going through this because it's huge. This is, in my estimation, a symptom, not a disease. And so the faster that we can all work to kind of get a categorizing system, the better. And we know now, I mean, the presentation looks different in different people
Yes.
that have different causes. And so different causes require different approaches. And so if anybody's watching this, the question is this what you look like? Is this what you look like? Right. So if you
Well, I
have
hope not.
right, so if you have these symptoms, you know already kind of where we are as a center. Just thinking about our treatment strategy, and I super appreciate going through the information on the scooter. I think there's tons of people that would have a lot more independence and mobility. I am going to look at the hand part, and the only reason is for anybody that's out there thinking how difficult is it to drive, or if they have hand weakness.
This one, just a thumb.
So it really-
Backward or forward. Very simple.
yeah, no, that's super simple. So you don't
Reverse.
need a lot of dexterity. You don't need a lot of hand strength.
Now, I will tell you that you need a little bit of core strength because you got to have balance to sit on this.
I was
because
thinking
it's
the
three
same.
wheels.
Yeah. Not only that, but the chair. Everybody can see you got your body science shirt on.
Yes,
I
he
love
does
that.
today.
I love that. Yeah, you guys can see that the chair is low, and so I agree. If there's a balance issue, a core strength issue, and I don't know if there's anything that can be put over there on the back to allow for more back support. I guess everybody would have to kind of look.
There is an adaptable chair that comes with it that has arms on it. So you do have the option of getting an extra seat that has arms.
Okay.
We chose not to do that because it just limits his space here.
Yeah.
But they do have a seat that you can buy for this particular model that has arms on it.
You got it. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for this.
You're welcome.